Well, hello there, friends. Thanks for clicking on this video and joining in on what is a continuing conversation. And this obviously has to do with homemade black powder. And what I want to do in this particular video is I want to rerun a test of one of the gunpowders that I had tested previously, which is Barberry. Now, when I tested this gunpowder through my chronograph, I only shot, one time through the chronograph and recorded that. What I want to do now is with this gunpowder in particular, Barberry, is give you a 5-shot average. And I'll tell you from previous testings, this gunpowder does burn dirty. But the reason why I want to get a 5-shot average is because when I did the testing of the Barberry, I actually had two different types. You can go back on this channel and you can see where I made some gunpowder out of the Barberry that was really green. It had just gone through a fire on this property, and I charred that up and I made some gunpowder. And then I took an old limb. In fact, the limb was so old it had mold growing on it, and I made gunpowder out of that. And that's this gunpowder that I milled 30 hours. Now I'll tell you, both gunpowders, whether it was the green wood or the dead limb, both of them burned very dirty. But I will tell you, when I did test this through my chronograph, this was done with my flintlock. Actually, if I recall correctly, I haven't found that video yet, but I believe it was done with my flintlock, okay? Now, the one Barberry, these were 80 grains by weight. The green Barberry, one shot through the chronograph, I recorded 1518, and that was with the green Barberry. The limb, the old limb that I actually milled for 30 hours, because the other Barberry I had only milled for about 20 hours, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while. But this Barberry with the old limb that I had milled for sure for 30 hours, one shot through the chronograph, I get 1609. So there's quite a bit of difference between what was the green wood and what was the absolute dried wood. Okay? So what I want to do in this particular video is I want to get a 5-shot average with the Barberry. I'm going to weigh it out and see how much it, fills up the powder measure and where the measure actually is. Just simply because when I shot the Barberry through my Great Plains without the chronograph, the Barberry grouped really good as far as I was concerned. I was shooting at 30 yards. 25 yards. I'm going to back up to 30 yards now and see what this does, with a 5-shot group through the chronograph at 30 yards. So in order for me to get to that point, I have to first measure it out on the scale, make sure I'm dealing with 30 grains by weight. Now this particular Barberry right here was pucked with the 1 3/16 pucking die. That's that tube that I had used. And this is a good blend of 2 to 3F. So it's not a true 2F, it's not a true 3F. So I kind of want to see what this is going to do in my Lyman Great Plains, because it might determine whether I take this on my deer hunt or not. So I'm going to get this weighed out, and then I'll show you where it lies as far as volume is concerned in the powder measure. Stay tuned. So there's the powder measure. You can see the gunpowder's right at the top. And I'll try not to let my dyslexia slip in on this one. But I'm at it about maybe 86, 87 grains. I'm almost at that full 10 grain mark. I don't know, Yeah, probably about 85 grains. And bear in mind that as I just did this, the Barberry has the same specific gravity as that hard rock maple or sugar maple, tiger maple. That's all a hard maple. When you get down to your silver leaves, now you're getting into the softer maples. Okay, so the Barberry has a specific gravity of anywhere from 0.60 to 0.63, and the maple has a 0.63. So they're a little bit equal as far as specific gravity is concerned. And one of the reasons why I said I want to test this is because when I did the 5-shot shooting with the maple, I got a 5-shot average of 16-19. I kind of want to see how this compares, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. If you're not familiar with it, the channel Idaho Lewis, he did some shooting by putting a greased patch over the powder charged and then put the ball and the patch on top of that. And from what he was demonstrating, you can get a much tighter, greater group by putting a patch over the powder and then your patched round ball on top of that. So I'm going to be doing that at the same time, just simply because years ago, Muzzleloader magazine ran a series of articles about coning the front of your barrel, inch and a half, and that pretty much does away with having to use a short starter to get that ball started. Now all of my guns, my long guns, black powder long guns, they've been coned. And shortly after the series of articles that came out, a lot of the black powder shooters were complaining about losing their accuracy. And it was determined at that time with the greased patch, when that round ball hit that little bit of a void, that flame from the black powder was starting to come around the ball and a lot of patches were burning. I've showed you some of my patches are burnt. And I think that that's because of the reason a hotter burning gunpowder would do that, in my opinion. So that's why I went to a spit patch and a spit patch only. Because I noticed that when I first coned, at least my flintlock, I saw that right off the bat. And within another article or two, they came out and said that this was the reason, because your oils are burning as it comes to that little bit of a void having your rifles coned. So that's the reason why I use a spit patch. Now, in this experiment, I want to see if the greased patch on top of the powder has any effect on the spit patch as it gets to that little bit of a void in my Lyman Great Plains. So, I have a couple of things in this video that I want to see for myself, and I also want to do a burn test once again with this Barberry, and I'm going to compare it to Schutzen. So let's get camera turned around, get everything set up on my anvil, and then we'll check that out. 30 grains of Swiss 3F. Obviously that went up real quick, but let me show you the block in the sun, and you make your own determination based upon my opinion. So there's the obtrusive smoky residue. And once again, I can still see little chunks like that of KNO3. All right? Now, some people would consider this clean. I, myself, do not. But that's Swiss, smoky residue, and there's, well, that's actually a large piece of KNO3. Let me clean it off. We'll burn the Barberry. 30 grains, Barberry, milled for 30 hours. as you can see, and it's observable, it went up a little slower. But let me give you a close-up of the block. So there's the block. No smoky residue. And yeah, even like the Swiss, there's some of them little fine pieces of KNO3 left behind. And even though I've shown in a previous video by using, wet rags after 3 shots, the rags were pretty dirty. But quite honestly, so would your Swiss, because not only would you be cleaning out the gunpowder, the charcoal that's left behind, now you're also cleaning out some of that obtrusive smoky residue. Take it for what it's worth. I'm just giving you my opinion. If I actually had a choice of taking this Barberry hunting for deer or the Swiss, well, I can't make that judgment yet until I get you some chronograph numbers. So let's go out and get them. So before I actually get out and shoot, I wanted to get this recorded because I thought at the same time of retesting my Barberry, I thought I would retest the Swiss factory and the Swiss that I remilled and see if I can get the same type of numbers that I got last time, because when I did this, I showed that the remilled stuff outperformed, not by much, the factory Swiss. And in order to do this, we need to be comparing apples to apples. Okay? So let me get the camera turned around and I'll show you real quick what I'm discussing here. So before I show you what the scale actually reads, I use this powder measurer, and it's set at the 80 grains by volume. Okay? I want to show you what it weighs. This is Swiss factory. It's little, well actually it's actually level right now. Let me zoom in just a bit. Hopefully the camera will focus. You'll see I'm at the 80 grain mark. But look at the individual dial. 80 grains of volume of Swiss as it stands right now weighs 87.5 grains. So you fellas that are making your homemade gunpowder and you can't figure out why it's underpowered compared to Swiss, it's because by weight and volume, you're shooting more of the Swiss gunpowder in the same volume of powder measurer. See? So what I'm going to do to have a fair shooting competition with Swiss factory, once again with the Swiss that I remilled, I have to make sure that my Swiss remilled gunpowder is equal in weight. Because if I was to use this same measurer and put a volume of measurement of my Swiss remade, it's going to underperform because Swiss factory shoots 7.5 more grains of weight, whether that be the gunpowder or the heavy glazing graphite. Okay, so I just got done weighing the Swiss gunpowder that I remilled and attempted to remove most of, if not all. I'll admit there's probably still some graphite in here, but the fact being, as I took this remilled Swiss, put it in the same scale, weighed out 87.5 grains so that I can compare apples to apples. And that actually comes right at the 90 grain mark on my powder measurer. But that's not really a 10 grain difference, is it? What is it, like a grain and a half difference? Maybe 2.5 grains difference? I can't do the math this quick, this early in the morning without a fresh cup of coffee right here. But you guys get the point. There's really not a whole lot of weight difference when you compare your homemade gunpowder to factory gunpowder as it weighs, not by volume. So I gotta ask, is this one of the reasons why they tell you you can't weigh gunpowder? Because they don't want you to discover that, yes, Swiss is more powerful at 80 grains than, say, Goex. That's because the heavy graphite adds a lot of weight, and as I explained in a previous video reading about the value of graphite, graphite in powdered form with an oxygenizer becomes highly explosive. Is that why they don't want you to weigh these gunpowders out? And especially for you guys making homemade gunpowder, they say, my gunpowder is weak. Well, maybe it's weak because you haven't taken the time to do what I just did right here and truly compare apples to apples, weight to weight. And maybe that's how we should be determining the power of our homemade gunpowder. So I'm going to get out here and let's get started. First shot, 80 grains by weight, the Barberry, no pre-lubed patch over the powder. And this first shot I'm using a Winchester Magnum cap. I just want to make sure the gun's going to go off. First time, clean out any residual oils or anything like that, and then I'll go to using some of my homemade percussion caps. $14.94, a little slow. Let me see if I can find the patch. Okay, this time I'm going to be using my homemade percussion caps. The cap is charged with 2 bang caps and some black powder on top of that and compressed tightly. Let's see what happens. $14.45. Well, I didn't find the first patch yet, but I did find the second patch. There it is. And interestingly enough, unlike the first time I tested Barberry, which shredded the patches, this one's not shredded up. Now I'm also shooting 10 more grains of powder as opposed to the 70 grains, but this second patch, I'm pretty impressed with it, not being so shredded up and not as dirty as the first time I tested this gunpowder. Let me get reset up and get you another number. And you guys saw where that one printed, a little off. But hey, it is what it is. I'm just out here having fun. Same homemade percussion cap. $14.18. I recovered that patch, and there it is, not shredded up and really not all that dirty. Go mark that off, get reloaded, get you another number. Okay, just found the first patch, and as you can see, it's not shredded, and it's actually cleaner than the other two, obviously, because this one went down a clean barrel. Same powder charge, same homemade percussion cap. $14.40. Gonna walk up, mark that one off. Think I pulled that one. Well, here's that patch. It's not disintegrated like the first time I shot Barberry. And it's actually pretty clean. I mean, actually from where I'm standing, it's pretty clean. I'm going to go pull the target, actually swap them out, and get reset up and try shooting the same gunpowder, same load. I might experiment with a different percussion cap. I'll decide that here in a moment or two. But this time I'm going to put a patch over the powder charge, a greased patch, and the lube I'm using is just my homemade bullet lube. So let me get all this accomplished, and then I'll meet you right here in just a moment or two. This time, homemade percussion cap with the flesh-colored bang cap material compressed real tight in itself. So let's see what it does. $14.29. Let me show you the target. First shot did not hit the bullseye. Shot number one. So just so that you can understand the process, pre-lube patch, all I'm doing, just getting it started. Then I put my spit patch in the ball on top of that. This time the percussion cap is the same compound with a piece of tissue paper put on the top of it. But the tissue paper is from the pattern material. That's the tissue paper I'm using. Failure! All right, I'm going to go to a magnum cap just to get the charge set off. Well, you saw where that went. Let me get your number. 14.56. Well, this was certainly interesting. I only found one of the patch over the powder, but I actually found it halfway between the post and the target. Whereas all of the patches around the ball, I'm finding just about at the distance of the chronograph. But this is the patch over the powder. It's pretty clean, guys. Kind of move it around so you can kind of see. Now I will tell you, and I think it's because of the oils and the lubricant on the patch, when I picked this up it was pretty gritty. Okay, and here was the patch. No, I take that back. This was the first patch over the powder. This was the patch over the ball. Judge for yourselves if it helps make one cleaner than the other. All right, I'm going to get loaded up again and get you another number. This time, same homemade percussion cap with the bang caps and match head component put on top. This time I do not have that piece of tissue paper on it. $14.38. This time I'm going to go back to the magnum caps. Not that there was anything wrong, I just have a small container of them left and I kind of want to use them up. $14.71. Well, I did not find the patch that was over the powder, but I found the patch that was over the ball, and it's pretty clean. So I'm going to get loaded up, take this last shot with this experiment, and then I'm going to take the 2 shots, or a couple of shots each, perhaps with the Swiss factory and the Swiss that I remilled, just to see, once again, to get some numbers. But I'm going to just, do my normal load and forsake the patch over the powder charge. So I'm going to get loaded up, get this last shot off, and continue on. Well, you've seen it. Let me go mark it off. I'm going to leave that target up because I want to prove something for myself regarding your coned barrels as it relates to pre-lubed patches. I forgot to write the number down, but I think it was 1487. I'll go back and review the string because there's a couple other numbers I forgot to write down. This time the patch over the powder didn't go much beyond where the chronograph is setting. So that's the patch over the powder, and then this was the patch around the round ball. And you can see, you know, the greased patch definitely protected the bottom of the round ball, because you can clearly see where it's at. So I'm going to get resituated here. As I said, I'm going to leave the target up because I want to confirm something for myself regarding your coned barrels. I'm not going to clean the gun barrel. I'm just going to keep shooting. I've had no problems, no issues loading. Everything's been, you know, smooth as normal, for me at least. But I'm going to shoot the factory Swiss first. Now remember, I'm shooting 80 grains of factory Swiss 3F, so I'm expecting that chronograph to pick up a really good, fast velocity. $17.05. $16.36. Well, I found that patch. I shot with the Swiss. If I was to compare this to my Barberry, I'd say this is a little bit dirtier. But hey, you guys make up your own mind, because I know a lot of you are now going to start accusing me of being biased. Hey, it is what it is. $16.35. Go mark that off and get prepared to shoot the Swiss that I remilled. Found that patch. I'd say it's a hair cleaner than the previous patch, and it very well could be that that patch I picked up was really dirty. May have been that first patch that I had run down the barrel between my Barberry and the Swiss, because like I said, I'm not cleaning out my barrel. I'm just going to keep going. Okay, I'm going to get loaded up with the remilled Swiss. Take the 3 shots, get 3 numbers, and we'll see how they print. $17.25. $17.47. So I picked up that patch. It's really no dirtier than Swiss Factory, but you can see, I hope, there is a hole that got burnt through that one. But wait till you see the target. I'm going to take my 3rd shot, and hopefully this shot won't embarrass me. As I just said, wait till you see the target. Hang on. $16.73. I'm going to go pull the target and pack everything up, and I'll meet you in the shop. So just before we go into the shop, I want to show you the patch so it'll justify where the 3rd shot landed on this target. That patch is shredded. Big time shredded. And I'll show you where that bullet landed. Note to self, when you come in to review the numbers to make sure you get them right, make sure your overhead light is off. I'm not sure what happened, but when I went to go review the numbers, I lost everything, and I'm just wondering if that LED light didn't have something to do with the sensors, and I'm thinking it does. But fortunately, I can give you the 5-shot average with the Barberry when I shot with the patch over the powder. I can't give you the full string of numbers. That first go around with the Barberry with no patch over the powder, because I did not write down 3 numbers, but I do know that I shouted them out to you in the camera. So when I get this into the editing program, I'll get all those numbers and I'll put a text at the very end as to what everything was. But as you guys, at least at this point, I don't remember. I think when I shot that first round with the Barberry, I showed you the target. But either way, let me give you close up. That's all 5 shots. Not bad. The second round with the Barberry, with the greased patch over the powder, 5-shot average was 14.56 with a spread of 58. So that's actually pretty good. But let me give you a close-up. Shot number 1, the greased patch over the powder. Shot number 2, the greased patch over the powder. Shot number 3, greased patch over the powder. Shot number 4, greased patch over the powder. And I know shot number 5 went right here. Okay? The only difference was the patch over the powder, and the reason I did that was to see if it increased accuracy. I have no opinion or judgment on that as it pertains to what I saw Idaho Lewis do, just simply because my black powder rifles are coned. And I think I expressed earlier in this video that there was a series of articles in Muzzleloader magazine talking about the pros and cons, and one of the things that they discovered is that those that were shooting greased patches, they lost accuracy. So, my first round was Swiss Factory. I'll give you those guys' numbers. I forgot to kind of write. Oh, wait, no, I take that back. My first round with the Swiss Factory, 3 shots. 80 grains by volume, 1658.66 with a spread of 70. Okay, now remember the first time I did this, remilling the Swiss shot better. So what did we get the second 5 shots? 3 shots? 17.15 with a 3-shot average and a spread of 74. So once again, repeating the experiment, me remilling the Swiss improved it. But how did it shoot? All right, let's see here. Swiss Factory, shot number 1, right here. Shot number 2, right here. And shot number 3, Swiss. There's number 3 Swiss written out, and the line goes right here. So all 3 hit the bullseye. Great. Now how about the remilled stuff? Remilled, shot number 1, right there. Remilled, shot number 2, right here. And shot number 3, remilled right here. But, as I showed out there, that patch disintegrated. So I'm of the mind that that wasn't the gun or the gunpowder, but it was the patch. I'd like to see what you think about that, because obviously that Great Plains group's mighty good. So anyhow, I'm going to go in the house, have a little bit of lunch, probably clean the gun and then edit this. And when you get to that first round, you'll see the numbers up on the screen. But at this point, why am I explaining this now at the end of the video? Because you're going to have already seen it. If you guys enjoyed the video, I hope you give it a thumbs up and share it with your bestest of buds. Bye.